Hi, Hannah. Thank you so much for coming on my YouTube channel. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Great. So obviously I know what you do, but it'd be great for you to tell everybody a little bit about you, introduce yourself officially and sort of say a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Hannah Bradley. I am the founder of my business, The Curly Confidant, and I am a hair coach. So I help people of all hair types, backgrounds, circumstances to be able to wear and care for our hair with confidence. So not necessarily how we wear it for events, if we have special things going on, not just coming out of the hairdressers feeling on top of the world, but 365 days a year. How are we looking after our hair? Do we understand what it needs? How do we deal with any hair and scalp concerns, and just feel really, really good in ourselves? So the practical and the emotional sides of our hair and our relationship with our hair through online one-to-one support and education.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. And I think a lot of viewers are probably thinking mortgages and money matters and hair and how does it connect? But I know personally, I find, when I've gone through money stresses and things like that, it really has it does affect your hair, just general stress, let alone money stress as well. So it'd be great if you could sort of talk a little bit around that.
Absolutely. Stress has a huge impact on our overall health, which also means it's going to impact our hair health. So it could be medical stress, physical stress if we're going through a time of maybe a major health concern that we're getting treatment for, as well as emotional stress. And so that financial stress is really going to come under that emotional stress bracket. So when we have something that is, long-term stress, so not just necessarily a moment of stress, but something like finances, which aren't necessarily going to be a quick resolution, something that we might be thinking about potentially for years, hanging over us all the time, that long-term impact of that stress can lead to hair health and scalp health issues. So it might be things like flakiness and a dry scalp, especially if you're already prone to that, then it can exacerbate pre-existing conditions. It can also lead to hair loss. So there's a condition called telogen effluvium where we lose a dramatic amount of hair in one go, more so than usual. That can happen after periods of intense grief, relationship loss, and our relationship with money and our career as well. It can lead to something called alopecia areata, which is a type of hair loss condition where our immune system starts to attack our hair follicles. So this is this is not just cosmetic. This is very serious. Stress can absolutely have an impact on our inner health, and that can be seen externally in our hair and scalp health.
Okay, no, thanks for that. And while you were talking, you did mention your relationship with or our relationship with money and how it impacts our sort of spending habits. So could you tell us a little bit about how, that has impact on your hair?
Definitely, our relationship with money will impact what we see as a priority. So, if we're in a position where maybe we're in some financial hardship or we're wanting to save for something that's really important, anything where we're kind of creating a budget and reflecting on where we're spending, which is a good thing to do. It's good to understand where your money is going. But what that can do is lead to situations where we start really pulling back, and one of the areas that we can pull back on is things that we personally consider to be a luxury or an extra. And our hair and our spend on our body care, our personal care, self care, including our hair care, can be one of those things. So we might start to cut back on either the quality or the amount of products that we buy for our hair, thinking that they are just luxury, they're extras, they're not something that's really, a must in our life. And so what that can lead to, therefore, is products that maybe aren't best suited for our hair and scalp. So that's going to then lead us to a situation where maybe we're getting some scalp irritation or some flakes. Our hairstyle is just not as nice as it used to be, especially if we have some kind of textured hair. Textured hair is very sensitive to not having the right products. The same with fine hair, can be very sensitive to not having the right products. And so then that starts to affect our confidence. And when our confidence takes a knock, again, our spending takes a knock because we start to not feel so worthy or deserving of investing in ourselves because we're just feeling really in a difficult place about life. So, yeah, definitely our relationship with money and how we perceive our spending and what we perceive to be a priority will impact our hair, and then that ends up being a bit of a vicious cycle.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really interesting how you talk about confidence in particular, because I know, like in certain situations, like for example, if you want to advance in your career, or if you're doing a YouTube channel like this, you do get more confidence, don't you, with how you look externally. So that all helps, doesn't it?
100%. Our confidence is about more that it affects more than just our inner self. It affects our life and everything we see, because, you know, if you wake up and you're feeling like you're having a really good hair day, everything just feels more possible. Everything is easier from that moment. Your hair has no necessary direct impact on your journey to work, but that little bit of traffic that you meet doesn't feel like such a big deal anymore because your day started off well. Or maybe you've got an interview, or you're looking at new job positions because you're wanting to earn a bit more money because of the goals that you've got, and you feel more confident and capable of applying for a position that you might not usually, or asking your boss to be paid what you feel you're worth because of the contribution you're making to the company. Or maybe you run your own business and you feel more confident to reach out to a big client that you're trying to win, or to an influencer that could be a great deal for you, things like that. Your hair hasn't done that for you, but it helps to make those things more possible. Versus the other side of the spectrum, you wake up and you feel like you're having a bad hair day. Next thing you know, oh, I don't know, you've accidentally spilt your coffee, and the whole world's gone to hell in a handbasket, and it's all awful, and then there's this, and now this person that I hate at work has put this job on my desk, and then that person's responded to my email in a bit of a funny way, and stress, 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 stress. Everything feels more difficult, a much bigger deal than usual, because your day started off on the wrong foot. So don't underestimate the power that your hair and your relationship with your hair can absolutely have in our day-to-day life, our opportunities, and just how much we go out and get the things that we really want.
Yeah, and I think if it shows you look after your hair, it shows that you actually do care about your appearance and things like that. And unfortunately, people do judge books by their covers, and before they even get a chance to sort of get to know you, they're already sort of looking, at what you look like from the outside. So it's a bit of a shame, but yeah, no, I completely agree with you. When I wake up and my hair's shiny and the curls are there and everything, then yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a lot easier to start working on the outside rather than the inside. There's a lot of, as you say, practical tips that you can give people. It'd be great to sort of know about your story a little bit. I know you've had sort of first-hand experience.
Definitely. So my hair was a massive part of my inner journey. Like you said, sometimes it's easier to start with the outside, and then changing some of those outside things gives you the energy and the power and the worth and everything you need to deal with some of the inner stuff that we have going on. So for me, COVID was a really difficult time, like it was for lots of us. I was living on my own at the time, and before the bubble system was introduced, was therefore completely alone, which might be something that people listening can relate to. It was very difficult. And so as a result of that, my mental health took a real decline. And I got to a point where I was very depressed, and that ended up in me trying to take my own life when it got really bad. And in recovering from that, I started to realize that I needed to put myself as more of a priority in my life, which I very much hadn't done up to that point. And so I started looking at more self-care, external stuff, spending more time on myself, or just putting on a colored top that I liked rather than, something that felt quite drab, and something that almost didn't suit my mood, to help lift my mood. And those were quick changes. And I also started looking at hair care. As you do, you click on something on Instagram, and then that's literally all you see for the rest of your life then. So I clicked on something about hair care and started discovering this community of people with textured hair that were learning to look after it. Because at this point, I was straightening my hair, as I had done for many, many years, because I didn't know I had a choice. That's the thing. I didn't know that my hair could look nice in any other way than with the hair straighteners, because it didn't look like this before I was straightening it by any means. So as I then embraced my natural texture, which is for me who I was made to be, this hair was designed for me, it should suit me more than anything else, as my hair changed, I changed fundamentally as a person. My confidence grew, my love for myself grew, how I felt about who I was seeing in the mirror transformed. And that gave me, as I say, that energy, that confidence, that self-worth, that self-love to then start turning my life around, to go out and start getting some coaching and some therapy and address some big issues and things in my life that I really needed addressing. I was in a very strict religion at the time, which I excommunicated myself from, and all of those amazingly positive things came off the back of changing my hair. And whilst my hair didn't solve any of that for me, I had to do that. I had to be in a position where I had the ability mentally, emotionally, and physically to do that. And that's what my hair gave me. And that's when I really came to appreciate that our hair is so much more than just a fiber that grows out of our head. It's our culture, our identity, our femininity, our masculinity. It's who we are, and how we care for it is a reflection of how we care for ourselves. So then I started building my business.
Oh, I'm sorry that you had to go through what you went through, but I mean, you know, it's the silver lining that you got to where you are. So no, that's great. And how do you think this experience has affected your relationship with money?
Massively. So when I was in kind of the peak of my depression, prior to that, I was living a very strict budget. I literally just had enough to meet my basic needs, nothing extra. And every penny was accounted for very strictly. And so then when my depression hit, I didn't have the energy to manage that anymore. It takes a lot of effort to manage your finances,
Mm.
especially if you are living that close to the line where every single payment counts. And so my budget went completely out the window. My spending went completely out the window, because spending became a source of dopamine. So I am non-officially diagnosed ADHD, and my spending was my crutch for my mental health. Those little moments of joy of like, I've got something to look forward to. And I know this is something, having spoken to others who have experienced mental health challenges, that is very common. And so my spending went more reckless, my budget went out the window, and inevitably I ended up in a lot of debt. I was taking out a lot of credit cards and a lot of short-term loans and things like that to be able to pay for these things. But I didn't have any mental capacity at all to actually deal with the consequences, which also woke me up to the fact that actually these companies really don't care about you at all. They have no interest in your mental health or your goals and dreams, anything at all. They just let me keep taking out all this stuff. So I ended up in a lot of debt. But when I worked on my hair and my self-worth and my confidence, I had what I needed to then face up to the situation that I'd got myself into, which was obviously serious. You know, I was living out of home at the time, and then I couldn't afford my rent anymore. So I had to move back in with my parents. You know, there were major consequences to this, but you need to have the strength to deal with that. So you need to take care of yourself. Because my budget was so restrictive, there was no room for anything that brings joy. It was literally just, oh well, that's all extra, I don't need that. That's all, you know, luxury stuff. I just need a roof over my head and my food and the electric paid and whatnot, you know. But actually that's too far down the other line. We need to have things as a priority in our spending budget that bring us happiness and joy and make us feel good and add to our life. Because otherwise, if you take all that away, what are you living for? What have you got left? You're inevitably, of course, you're going to start to feel a lack of motivation and not feel like there's such a purpose in life, that you're not feeling satisfied, you're not feeling happy. And then, you know, really, is that house that you're saving for worth all that if you're not going to get there, or certainly not in a way where you're feeling good about life? Definitely, definitely, definitely incorporate into your budget things that you do for you or for yourself as a couple if you're in a relationship, that you do with your family, things that they are not luxury. They are essential, just as essential as making sure that you eat your food. You need emotional food as well, because otherwise your mental health will humongously suffer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all very well me giving finance tips, but until you're ready to take those steps forward, of course. And yeah, you should definitely organise your budget to not only do the committed expenses, but also the necessary things to give you a treat and to lift you up, because your mental health, it's so important and people just don't always realise that. So no, I agree with you completely. Having date nights, putting aside money just for, even if it's just a holiday once a year, you know, you can sort of find ways to sort of split your finances over a certain amount, so everything can be apportioned and you can actually look at things other than a really, it sounds like really, really strict budget, because you can't continue that for any length of time. I mean, myself personally, I I had a very strict budget for only a short amount of time to save up a deposit, but it was very different back then. I was able to save up a deposit within a matter of months. When it's taking years, you do have to sort of open the purse strings a bit and actually live your life as well. I think there's a balance between them both. So
100%. There's no point having a home if you don't have a life to live in it. That's the thing. You know, we have lives outside of work, we have lives outside of our responsibilities. We are also individuals that deserve to be happy. You know, that's definitely something I've learned, is that we are all, you're so worth it. The world is a better place for having each of us in it. We all have something to add, and you deserve to be a happy part of life experience. You know, it's so much more than responsibilities. Yes, the responsibilities are there for a reason and they're important, but we take care of the responsibilities so that we can then have a life, not the other way around. We're not put here to just deal with the necessities. The necessities are dealt with so that then we can enjoy all of the other wonderful things that there are to do in life.
yeah, no, absolutely. That's why it's so important. Everybody has a budget for when they get their property, but they don't actually have a budget for afterwards. And I think it's important because some people can just be living to pay their mortgage and not actually go out or do anything. So what you're saying definitely rings home. I think you've got to look at it from both perspectives. But Hannah, thank you so, so much. Honestly, there have been some really golden nuggets there. It'd be great. Obviously, you've mentioned your coaching, and I know you've got some wonderful programs in there that will really, really be able to help some of the viewers. So, would you like to sort of comment on how people can get in contact with you? Maybe we can put something in. What were you thinking?
Yeah, so I'll let people know on here how they can connect with me. So on Instagram, I'm at _curly_confidant, on Facebook at the Curly Confidant, whichever social media platform you prefer. My website is thecurlyconfidant.co.uk. So please do, if anybody has any questions, you know, if you have hair and scalp concerns, of course, reach out to me if you're concerned about how stress may be impacting your hair. If you want some advice on being able to still support your hair health without breaking the bank. Looking after your hair doesn't have to be expensive by any means. It's just understanding how to choose the right products for you personally, and certain things to look out for that can be detrimental to your long-term hair and scalp health. Absolutely do reach out. Or equally, if you just want somebody to talk to about if any of my personal experience has resonated with you, I'm an open book. I'm always happy to chat about what I've been through in the hope that it might be able to help somebody else who might find themselves in a similar situation. So my messages are always open. Please do reach out. And then if you want to learn a little bit more about what I do, I have a free workshop coming up actually on the 4th of July, depending on when you're listening to this, which is all about how we can care for our hair on holiday. Well, before we leave for our holiday, when we're on our holiday, and after. So protecting against things like sun, sea, and pool damage, the impact of travel. And sometimes we all have our best hair of our life while we're on holiday, and sometimes it goes the other way. The last thing you need is to actually have invested in a holiday, which you well and truly deserve, and then not be feeling confident about how you look, or worried about, you know, how your hair's coming across in family photos and stuff like that. There's so much more serious things to be worried about than that. So helping people to look good and feel confident on their holidays.
That's great. And what we'll do is we'll put it all in the comments, and I'll pin the comments with all your contact details and also in the description. So they'll be able to get in contact with you. Brilliant. Well, thanks, Hannah. And to the subscribers, thank you so much for viewing. And if you're not a subscriber, why not? Please subscribe, and it helps me reach more people and allow me to have great guests like Hannah. Thank you.